booties for black girl nerds.
Fantasia, I had the pleasure of seeing you perform over 15 years ago on Broadway, and it felt like just yesterday seeing you on the stage and now seeing you on the screen with the color purple. I know Blitz's vision was very important to you with this film, but what made you decide to say yes when you did decide to go ahead and be a part of this film?
It was Blitz giving Celie an imagination. I felt like that was, I was telling Danielle and Taraji, I think that was the hardest part for me on Broadway was she didn't have an imagination. And so it left me and you guys trying to figure out, what is she feeling? Well, how, it went from sad to, I'm here, yay. You didn't get to see the process of how she processes her way through that drama and being told she's ugly every day and being, physically abused. So when he said he was giving her an imagination, for me, I was like, I'm in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Danielle, you said that you went through a season of imposter syndrome, working on Broadway, playing Sofia, as well as on Orange is the New Black. So the song Hell No was very cathartic for you. You had mentioned this. So what was it about that song and performing it that made those scenes so cathartic?
Words have power. And you can manifest a lot through what you say and your thoughts every day. So doing 8 shows a week, singing Hell No every day was my personal reminder when I had fear, when it came 7:45 and they were calling places. I knew that I was going to get to sing that song and sing my way through what I needed. And that was knowing that I am capable of doing this. And so I learned my power through that song, but now I've been able to own my power during this journey. So yeah, I'm grateful. Like, this song has really shaped me, and I'm excited for women to also go through the same thing. I believe this will become the woman's anthem of 2024.
Yes.
24.
It is going to be a moment and an experience for so many women. Taraji, I saw the press conference and Oprah Winfrey said this, and I'm going to read her quote. She said that this film will crack people open in places that they will not expect. What are those open places you think that she is speaking of?
Well, I mean, if you haven't healed some things in your life, if you've swept some things under the carpet that you may need to deal with, you might be in for a big surprise on what it will trigger in you. Not in a bad way, because there's laughter, there's joy, there's so much hope in this film. Hopefully what it will awaken in you is a desire to heal whatever's still broken in you. Because I think a lot of us in this cast have experienced and still are experiencing some healing just from being a part of this color purple multiverse, like our director Blitz so intelligently describes it. So yeah. You might find yourself crying, going, "What in the world?" Well, it might be something you need to really, dig a little deeper inside and figure out what that's about.
Absolutely. And this film made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me have all of the things. All the best to you. Thank you for talking to Black Girl Nerds. I love the fact that you guys are all in the awards conversation. And all the best to you in your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Happy
holidays.
Happy holidays to you too. Colman, I'm going to start with you. Forgiveness is a huge theme that plays out in this musical version between Celie and Mr., which is quite different from the original. And I'm going to ask you a hard question, so brace yourself for this one.
Uh-oh.
How do you make peace and forgive someone like Mr.?
If you think simply that forgiveness is forgiveness, that's what I believe. I also believe that once there's accountability, when there's faith, there's a lot of things, a lot of unknown variables that has to go into forgiveness. You have to trust that forgiveness is forgiveness. I think that's what makes Celie such a dynamic character. She forgives her oppressor. That says a lot. Okay, we can talk about America, we can talk about racism, we can talk about, we can talk about all that stuff. But the idea that this woman has enough grace and love and faith inside of her to, when she invites Mr. It's a very simple moment in our film, when he gets that letter to Easter dinner, and it takes his breath away, because that's forgiveness, saying, come to dinner, you're welcome here.
Wow.
Yes.
He thought he was banished and meant to, even though he was doing his own work, whether it was bringing the family back, all that stuff, his own work to do better and do right. But it took the hand of somebody else to say, come back. It's just, I forgive you. That's huge.
Huge.
And that says what the human heart can do and the capacity for someone, and how beautiful Celie is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Corey, what do you think this musical adaptation offers audiences that perhaps the original version may have fell short back in 1985?
Well, the original version, I think, didn't fall short in any respect for me, because it did what it needed to do for that time, along this beautiful sort of evolution of Purple, right? Like, I feel like we are an extension of those characters that Alice Walker envisioned and dreamed up, who were her family, her father's fathers, her mother's mothers. And so this version just pushes it forward a little bit more into the imaginative, into the thing that because I think we're also in a place now where we're starting to figure out how to talk about these things and give ourselves voice and permission to talk about these things, these abuse, trauma, forgiveness. We're finding the language for it.
Yeah.
And I think the imagination that Celie has, the imagination that Blitz, his vision for this film, that they get, and Marcus Gartley for the script as well, they give them the words and the tools to be able to deal with it. And I think that's the key, right? Because at the end of the day, we get to a place where there is hope, and we get to a place where we learn how to talk about how to deal with it.
Absolutely. Colman, back to you. You make Mr. your own in this movie. You definitely do not reinvent the wheel with playing this character. And, obviously stepping into what Danny Glover did with this was obviously probably very challenging for you. But how challenging was that for you, playing this role and stepping into those shoes and making it into your own?
The first thing I had to do, now I've been a fan of The Color Purple in every iteration. In the film, I probably saw this 100 times. The first thing I had to do was divorce myself from anything that I knew about it. And I had to go to the source material of the book and read it. It was the first time I read it, too. And see how it lands on me, all the characters, and what do I visualize? How do I see my mister? And really work towards that. So I didn't even have time to have doubts or fears or complicated feelings about what was done before. All I knew was like, this is my company, this is my director, this is the way my character must operate and live in this world. How do I see Mister? I see him as someone who has some swagger, he has some dreams, he's got some ideas. I think he's had his dreams deferred, and I think this is also part of like what's eating him up and what makes him abuse others. I wanted to find all the stuff that makes him human and complex and funny and have a sense of humor, have a bit of light. There's little moments, key moments that we even add in there, like when Mister's sitting with a purple flower, where you see that he's got love, he wants love too, like everybody else. But what happens when he doesn't get it? When he's working under systems where his father has influenced him and told him how he needs to be in the world. And so I think that's even the way he treats women, which is like chattel. You know what I mean? He didn't have he's not as evolved. And then he's trying to pass this down to his son, his son is on a whole different journey, evolving. And even the thing that possibly he's attracted to is like the strong woman who's a whole different generation. And then you have Mister who's just stuck, you know what I mean? And then his evolution comes later. So it was a privilege to play and find ways to love Mister. You have to love him to play him. Yeah. And then find out where he's vulnerable and where he needs to change and when that change comes. And I think that we worked hard to find an arc for him that had some redemption, some possible redemption in it as well. Everything's a possibility. I think nothing's finite. It's a possibility. There's a sun rising. That's all it is, in a new day.
It's a new day indeed, and thank you, Colman, thank you, Corey, so much for talking to Black Girl Nerds. It's a pleasure speaking to you, and all the best to you. I love the fact that this film is in the awards conversation. I'm happy that you are in the awards conversation, Colman, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good to see you.
Having Whoopi Goldberg be a part of this production, did you take any notes from her as you were preparing for the role as a young Celie?
Well, I actually didn't know she was going to be a part of it until I heard a rumor. There were whispers a couple of days before, and you never really know until you know. Like, she wasn't on the call sheet or anything, and she walked into the makeup trailer. I was getting my makeup done, and she looks at me, and I'm like, do I say hi? What do I do? It's Whoopi Goldberg. I just let her live her life. And as she's leaving, she was like, I just want to let you know that you're adorable. You must be young Celie. And I thought that was so interesting that she said that, because I don't think I've ever heard the word adorable associated with Celie. And then we just talked on set about how this is my time. I should make it my own. It's only the beginning of something, and to give myself grace, because even if it feels very brand new to me, I'm going to get more and more opportunities to shine. And she was just like, just do justice to the character. I believe in you. You were chosen for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it was perfect casting bringing you into this role. You and Fantasia look so similar. It's so amazing. And one of the most beautiful and heartwarming relationships in The Color Purple is the relationship that Celie has with Nettie, and how that relationship blossoms over time. Why do you think their characters has resonated with so many readers and audiences that have watched The Color Purple over the years?
I think when you think about childhood, there's like, the thing I'm going to say is like a safety blanket or like a teddy bear, and they are that for each other. I think, it's so beautiful to have someone who's seen you grow while you're still growing, someone who holds your memories, someone who like knows you inside and out. And I think that's what they are for each other. They're each other's anchors. And I think many people can resonate with that. I know I'm a sister. I have 3 sisters, and like each of them know a different side of me, but it is really beautiful that when we all kind of come together, we all know that we like, we share a heartbeat, we share DNA, we share different traits, and, they can look to each other and just like know that the rest of the world might not get it, but you get what I'm going through because we're connected.
What have you, and this is a question I've been asking everyone here, is what have you learned? Because this film is about life lessons, and each of the characters learn something about themselves through the process. So as you were working on this film and having your own journey through the production, what did you learn about yourself through this film?
Ooh. I learned 2 things. I learned that I had a lot of work still to do around my own beauty. Because when I got it, Celie is told she's ugly for a lot of the film. She's compared to her sister, who's light-skinned and beautiful. And I think, the project had, like, the different iterations of Color Purple had been around in my life. And I'd kind of shied away from them because I felt like the more people said I was Celie, the more they were saying, like, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly. And through this process, especially working with Fantasia, who's gone on her own journey, and Hallie, who always told me I was beautiful every single day, I think I learned more about my own beauty and that I am beautiful. You're beautiful. We're beautiful just the way we are. And then I also learned that I've now decided that like heartbreak and trauma, it creates cracks in you, but it's just cracks that light can shine through.
Absolutely. And beautiful is a perfect way to end this, a perfect adjective to describe this film. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to Black Girl Nerds. The premiere was great. I love how the audience just engaged with it. They laughed, they cried, they talked back to the screen.
They were in it.
They were in it, yes. So thank you so much for talking to us, and I'm wishing you all the best in your journey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. Bye.
Hello. Good
Hey,
to see
Blitz.
you again.
Good to see you as well. Congratulations on the premiere. It played very well.
Thank you.
You mentioned that The Color Purple is a sacred text of healing.
Yes.
What does the film add for us or helps us heal in the same way that the book did?
Well, I think what this film intended to do was dig a little deeper into our headspace. We all know what Celie survived externally, but we don't know how she internally, in her headspace, navigated that. And I think there's a big misconception around the fact that people who have dealt with trauma and abuse are docile, passive, and waiting to be saved. That couldn't be further from the truth. People who have dealt with abuse and trauma are constantly trying to work their way out of trauma and abuse. And I think that that, for me, was the most important thing that I really hope that people take away from this. And people who have dealt with or are dealing with trauma and abuse are encouraged to continue in their headspace, liberating themselves, because as it happens in your mind, it happens in reality.
Absolutely. This film is so therapeutic in so many ways. You have said that you never went to film school, which is a testament to the fact that you don't need to go to film school to make a big budget Hollywood film. But being so new to a film of this scale and being the captain of this ship and having so much responsibility, what kept you going every day?
Well, I also want to clarify, there is virtue in studying a craft. So I also don't want it to feel like because I didn't go to film school, I didn't study the craft. I mean, I spent every dime I made in the movie theaters. And when the lights would come on, I will sit with my little pad and I will write down things I'd figured out or learned and questions I had about films. So all I say is you have to study it, but you don't have to study it in a formal setting. And then what happens with that is because you have figured out your own understanding of the medium, you also have to build a level of resilience and a temperament to handle the process itself. And that for me was the biggest, most important thing, was showing up every day, remembering that I had to be grounded as the leader. And any day that I wasn't grounded, the entire production faltered, so I had to always show up early, 2 hours before call every day. It didn't matter what time the call was. And I would just sit with my guitar. I would play. I'll walk the lot. I'll walk the set. I'll decide where my camera goes first. I'll decide where my camera goes last. So when the grips and production design, everybody starts flooding my set, I already know what happens there. And that is critical for me, is grounding yourself day one up until the last day.
There's so many life lessons that each of the characters learn throughout this film. What did you learn through the production of this movie?
Well, I learned that it's all the same thing. Whether you're making a massive big budget movie or whether you're making a small micro budget movie like my first film was in Ghana, it's all the same thing. Still going to be hundreds of questions you have to answer. You have to be prepared. And for me, preparedness means I storyboard everything before I begin production. I'm clear as to what I want, and I've communicated that with my team. And that always allows me to then be able to execute on a very high level. But it'll always be the same thing, whether you're commanding a 10-man woman team or a 1,000-man woman team. It is all the same thing. You have to lead.
Blitz, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to Black Girl Nerds. Beautiful film, magical, and all the best to you in your journey.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.